Hey, everybody. Welcome to Collision. I'm really excited to talk to you about blockchain and NFTs today. My name is Roham Gharegozlou. I'm the founder and CEO of Dapper Labs. We're the company that created CryptoKitties back in 2017. We built the Flow blockchain to solve a lot of the problems we saw back then. And we recently launched it last year along with NBA Top Shot, which is now one of the most successful NFT products. And it's really become an incredible community of athletes and fans that have come around a new technology. But who I'm really excited about is my co-host today, tech investor, startup founder, Spencer Dinwiddie, who also plays for the NBA's Brooklyn Nets. Spencer's somewhat of a crypto OG himself. He was the first NBA player to try and tokenize his contract, and we'll talk about that battle. He's also one of our early investors at Dapper Labs. He invested before we launched Flow, before NBA Top Shot. So he's one of only 5 players to sort of believe in us before we launched. We'll talk about that as well. And we'll talk about Galaxy, his new startup, which is incredibly exciting. I've got the app on my phone. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Spencer, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Obviously we've had many conversations now, going back probably about a good 18 months. But as always, it's an honor to be, on Zoom with you because, the things that you've done in the space are legendary, and I'm fortunate enough to be on that ride with you.
Thanks, man. Well, I think, it's going to be really exciting for the audience to hear, how do you balance being an NBA player, in one of the hottest teams in the league, and starting a tech startup, which, one of those things by themselves are usually too much for most people. How do you do it?
Yeah. I would say in this respect that honestly, my injury this year has probably been a little bit of a blessing in disguise, just to be able to have that type of focus on Galaxy. Normally during season, I would have much less time, but this year has been very unique in the fact that I'm actually in Los Angeles. I still rehab probably about like 6 to 7 hours a day, but it's just kind of a different intensity than when you actually have a game and those wins and losses on the line.
Well, tell people about Galaxy. I don't think the audience here is a blockchain or crypto specific audience. So why don't you back up and just tell people the whole story, what got you into it, and then tell us a little bit about Galaxy.
I mean, I think Galaxy was kind of born from my initial deep dive into blockchain, trying to apply it to a world that I know well, which is the entertainment industry, which you saw me tokenize my contract. It was met with resistance, and I eventually pulled it off. But just looking at how to service, creators, entertainers, influencers, whatever, you call them, in our Galaxy ecosystem, we call them creators, just looking at best ways to service them. So, to simplify the process, and this will kind of sound blockchain, but, for the people that are familiar, but I look at social media kind of in 2 kind of layers. Your traditional kind of layer ones are the behemoths, right? The Facebooks, the Instagrams, the Twitters, that have really established function. People have followers, they can communicate their message. They're really what kind of social media was intended to be. But then you kind of had this friction in monetization. So you see the upstarts, which I call like the layer 2s, the OnlyFans, the Clubhouses, the Patreons, all those things, right? That are designed to have maybe a little bit of added function, but really there to kind of help creators monetize themselves in whatever way, form, or fashion that they can. We built Galaxy to be a comprehensive layer 2 at the start. We built it on blockchain, so we have less fees, and we have kind of a future-focused mentality in the sense of using social tokens to unlock, different access and things of that nature. But it's going to feel very familiar at the start because it'll have a lot of those layer 2 functions. So it's going to feel very social media-esque. And as we continue to build and scale is when some of those blockchain underpinnings will really start to reveal themselves, and you'll have NFTs and hopefully collaborations with Flow and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense that I really love that layer 1, layer 2 sort of analogy, because the first generation of social media, it brought creators and fans closer together. But most of the value actually went to the social media companies, whereas maybe this new generation creators are sort of more directly sharing in that. But tell us, what's a social token? You mentioned that sort of in passing. How does that all work, and how does it work in the Galaxy ecosystem?
Yeah, perfect. So, in terms of the value that you touched on right there, we charge, and this is at the start, and even it's going to come down more as we scale, but half the fees typically of the other layer two. So the OnlyFans and Clubhouse and all those, like the fees that they charge are typically double what we have in our ecosystem. And essentially, like, the social token in Galaxy's ecosystem unlocks, these perks or, these subscriptions. So you can subscribe to somebody's fan club. You can get access to kind of their video Dropbox where they collect, exclusive pictures or whatever. You can have a 30-minute blocks of time purchase. So, maybe a chef can give you a private cooking lesson very quickly, or, you can experience a workout with Spencer Dinwiddie. So it's all those interaction style of things that are kind of pre-built into the app. And then, like I said, as we are able to decentralize and grow and scale, the opportunities will pretty much kind of become limitless. We just understood that with the high profile creators we had, having kind of an enclosed ecosystem, and this kind of speaks to Top Shot as well. Sometimes you have to have some of those guardrails up so that, you don't get into security spaces or things where people can, get into kind of sticky situations. So that's why Cax is kind of built enclosed to start. And you have these kind of very specific subscription type of situations. But the scale is going to be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, when you're dealing with big brands and people with large followings, it's about keeping them, you can't let them do something illegal with a new technology. So it's about kind of keeping everything above board. The other thing I love about Galaxy is it's very mobile first, right? Unlike, even NBA Top Shot, it's a website. And so the mobile app's not even out yet, but, consumer today, they engage on mobile. And so that's where you guys started, and it's a really, really smooth experience. So when is it going to launch? When can people take it for a spin themselves?
We're scheduled to be in the App Store in the next 2 weeks or so before the end of April. So that's really exciting. Obviously, continuing to we're going to have kind of like the Clubhouse style funnel where, we can continue to kind of meter who gets in the app just from a numbers perspective. So we don't, let the 150,000 people on the wait list into the app and it just breaks. Like, we don't want that to happen. But to your point, we definitely built it mobile first. We understood that our creators and then also their consumer demographic is very mobile first, and so we wanted to kind of service the people in the most convenient way possible and the most familiar way possible. But yeah, so hopefully the next 2 weeks, sometime in the next 2 weeks, we'll be in the App Store, and you can download it and start to enter through the funnel.
So switching gears a little bit, you're an active investor, right? Can you tell people about, how do you approach investing? How do you balance it with the startup that you're working on? And what are some of the investments you've made recently that you're excited about?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I would say like I've actually kind of slowed down a little bit, just in terms of being the leader of Galaxy and also still focusing on my rehab. It takes up most of my time. Prior to that, I was probably a little bit more active in VC and investing in things. But the way I kind of like have my investment thesis or ethos rather, if it's in a area that I believe in and has a certain amount of growth and it's a product that I can get behind. One of the things that made me believe in you guys so much was you guys built pretty much the only real consumer product that had crazy success, in my opinion, in terms of the blockchain space. CryptoKitties crashed Ethereum. You know what I mean? Like that was wild. Like it was super dope. So, when the opportunity to pair up with you guys presented itself, me believing in blockchain, believing that there's going to be a gaming ecosystem and consumer end products built on, a blockchain and trying to figure out which team might succeed. Like it was kind of a no-brainer in my mind to align yourself with people that, have already built a successful consumer end product and then, going forward had the inroads to the NBA and things of that nature. So, also the last investment that I did make was actually doubling up and going back into you guys' latest round. I think that was probably a week and a half ago or something like that. So, I'm a Dapper Labs, Flow blockchain and NBA Top Shot homer. So this is probably an easier conversation than most.
Love it. Yeah. And I guess for the entrepreneurs listening, you also heard focus is super important, right? You've got a startup, you've got your rehab, and you're like, hey, I'm gonna slow down on these other things. And I think that's just impossible to do everything, right? And so that's a good lesson for people listening too.
Definitely can't boil the ocean. Definitely have to have the things that you love and are focused on. And don't get me wrong, like there might be a deal in a month that comes across the table that I say, you know what, I fully believe in this. I can't miss it. I'm gonna go in, but I'm not necessarily like scouring or making my team, go look for a deal every other day. I'm not in that headspace right now. I believe there's a ton of value that has been accrued in, projects such as Dapper Labs and Flow, such as Genies that I've been blessed to be a part of, in the technology space, and also such value in Galaxy that if it doesn't have my focus, then we can't maximize it, and we're wasting our time there.
How do you feel about NBA Top Shot as a player? As an athlete, you're basically the star of each of these collectibles, and how does that make you feel?
I mean, obviously, like I said, I think it's dope, and then two, I think it's a new wave of interaction. I think when it kind of had its initial blow up and spark and things like that, like it was really cool to see how much fans were like, hey, like I want to gift you your moment. You know what I mean? Or things of that nature. It was like, man, like, I appreciate y'all. Like that's super cool that you guys want to interact in that fashion. And I think, the more that you draw the fan and the player, or the fan, the entertainer, or, wherever the value is in the consumer closer together, like there's just so much there. And I think NBA Top Shot does a great job of that.
Do you think this works beyond just athletes? Like, will Galaxy work with only athletes or all kinds of different stars and creators?
So to start, we're really focusing on just creators, right? So that's anybody in the entertainment with a large following, whatever it is. But ideally, when you really look at just like life in general, everybody has a community that they speak to, whether it's 2 people, whether it's 2 billion people. You know what I mean? And so the Galaxy ecosystem as a whole is empowering you to be able to speak to your community or engage with your community. Like I said, we have a funnel system so that, the app doesn't just break day one, letting, several 100,000 people in, or, however many it is. But like, as it opens up, like we want everybody to enjoy those creator functions. We want everybody to be able to speak to their community and touch who they need to touch and communicate the message they need to communicate. So it really is built to be an open platform. We do have plans of decentralizing governance in the next, 6 months to a year. Like we have big picture vision so that everybody can be what they need to be within the ecosystem.
Very cool. I can't wait to see the world get their hands on it. Any lessons for the entrepreneurs out there, people starting new companies, looking at blockchain, NFTs all over in the news? Any sort of messages that you want to send to other entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, and I know this is probably cliche, like the follow your dream speech, but like, definitely research, learn as much as you possibly can about whatever it is you're passionate about, but, attack it full force and don't be scared for people to look at you crazy. Like, you got to remember, like I was in blockchain in 2017, like before it was sexy, like, and especially after the crash, riding through the people calling you crazy in the NBA from 2018, 2019, 2020, before, it boomed again and you have things like NBA Top Shot and stuff like that. Like, all my peers called me crazy, like for years. Like we're not talking about like for a week or for a month, like for years. Like, bro, like why you're having a great season. Why don't you just shut up about this blockchain stuff? And I would talk to them about it. And so you got to have that conviction and belief in yourself. And hopefully you pair up with people that are much, much smarter than you, like Roham, and they can help advise you and guide you and get you into their projects and things like that. And, just enjoy it all, learn from all of it.
That's an awesome message. What are your teammates telling you now?
How can I get in the NBA Top Shot? How can I get in the Flow? How can I get into, Galaxy? How can I, like, it's now the conversation is flipped. So it's fun riding this wave, don't get me wrong, but sometimes you have to go through 3 years of them calling you crazy and telling you to shut up and all that other stuff to get to this spot where they're saying like, hey, like, can I be a part of your company? And, can you call Roham for me and all that other stuff?
Well, awesome. Well, that's a great note to leave it at. Persistence and grit and conviction and focus. That's what's needed to build companies. So, Spencer, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a lot of fun. Guys, hit us up on Twitter if you have any questions. Yeah, super excited for the rest of the conference.